And I remember being on the yard when the Mexican Mafia was there, and they actually stopped doing their thing. And I don't really I don't know a lot about it, but I did know a lot of Mexican Mafia. And, right after them, that's when the Southerners had came about. But I remember there was this time when either them or the ABs, when they had to handle some business, it was a lot of respect. It was. And they would come notify. They would say, like, if we were in the same areas, they would be like, hey, man, hey, we're about to take care of some business. And, that new, they let us know. And, hey, we gave them their room to get down. And same thing if the blacks had to take care of some business. And if the Mexicans or the whites were there, then we would, kind of give them a heads up, give them a chance to get out the area. And then blacks take care of their business. So you kind of had that respect back in those days for things like that.
Is it true that, like, if the blacks get into it with the Mexicans, the whites ride with the Mexicans back in the 80s?
They, there was some cases, but not all the time. The Mexicans always numbers were at Folsom while I was there. I never saw the whites outnumber the Mexicans. Period. So they really didn't need to. They could really take care of their own business.
Okay. How about if it's the other way around? How about the blacks and whites get into it with the South Siders, like had the whites back?
Nah.
Okay. It wasn't very many Asians in there back then.
It was, but the Asians was a little different because you might have Asians, they stick to themselves. Then you had Asians that ride with whites. You had Asians that ride with the Mexicans. You have Asians that ride with the blacks. So the Asians was a little, they politics was a lot different than probably everybody else's.
So in the 80s, they just got in where they fit in.
Yeah.
And back then, too, you had Mexican Crips and Mexican Bloods.
Okay.
How did they operate in prison?
Well, it was always interesting, man, when whether it's a Mexican, if the Mexican blood or Mexican white or white, anybody who with the different races, you knew the minute it happened. Word passed because if it was a Mexican from a Crip gang or a Blood gang, then immediately the Mexicans wanted to get with that, to get with him. But pretty much the Crips, if it was a Crips or if it was a Blood, they would get at the guy and they'd be like, "What you want to do?" And if they stayed firm, then pretty much everybody got down. And they wasn't gonna let nobody just tell them who could run in their car. That's what was gonna happen.
Okay, back then, what was the Samoans doing? Was they rolling with the blacks or?
Well, Samoans had their own thing.
They had their own car.
Samoans had their own thing.
Indians, the natives.
Indians had their own thing. Indians. You might have them partial to certain groups, Mexicans and whites, but for the most part, the Indians stayed to themselves.
Have you ever did time in Soledad?
No.
Quentin?
No.
Okay. So in Folsom, was there a lot of reading material for blacks?
Yeah, it was. They had a nice little library, but I want to say that depending on what a person's interest was, we had action at getting books from the streets.
How about like political books or history books?
Pretty much, you wanted to. The library had things, but fiction. I mean, they had like fiction, drama, things like that. So, a lot of the history books. You had guys who had been settled who had wanted to. It was about educating themselves, and so they would pass materials around. Whether it was the regular copies or making photocopies of certain books, just to make for the people who wanted to engage in reading and to increase their storehouse of knowledge.
Right. How big was reading material for George Jackson during that time?
Just don't have no George. At Old Folsom, you couldn't. If you got caught with anything with George Jackson, you was getting locked up.
So the police didn't want you following the teachings of George Jackson?
Not at all. No, not at all.
Have you ever been to Tracy?
No.
No. You did most of the time in Folsom?
Well, like I said, I went from LP, then from the inception, I went to LP to Central to the county jail to youth authority and prison, all in one whop. And then when I got to Folsom, I stayed 6 years in Old Folsom. My points dropped. I went to Corcoran.
Corcoran, what year was that?
I got to Corcoran in 93.
And who was deep on that yard?
92, 93. Excuse me, I got to Corcoran, in 92.
Okay.
And as far as deep as in who?
Who had the numbers as far as UBN and BL?
Oh, the Bloodlines had the numbers. Under Reno was there at that time.
Reno from Swan.
Yeah, Reno from Swan. Yeah, and I actually had the chance to meet him. Pretty cool cat too. And it was kind of messed up because I'd asked him a question. Just out of being humorous. Hey, what if you saw Peabody? What would you say? He certainly didn't like Peabody. But hey, that was just the politics. But the Bloodlines had the numbers there then.
Mm-hmm. Was they set tripping, or how could you compare them to the structure that you seen Peabody have with the UBN and Folsom?
Actually, I did know quite a few bloods. Quite a few bloodlines. I really didn't get into it with them like that because I wasn't there for that long. Because I had got into a riot with the Hispanics, with the Southerners back then, and so my stay there was kind of short, and which was actually kind of ironic because the only reason why I got into it was actually between the Mexicans and the Hoovers. I want to say Baby Smokey had got stabbed by one of the. Baby Smokey from H. Ray Hoover had got stabbed by one of the Southern Mexicans, and I was even though I was from 9 at that time, I was still on I was on the black tip as well, and I wasn't going to stand by and let no other race stab no blacks, and so I helped, and when I helped, a bunch of the neighborhoods came and helped out as well, and then they sent me to Solano, was there for like 3 months, got into some more stuff in Solano. Then they sent me to Lancaster. Then I stayed in Lancaster for a few years. My points dropped. Then I went to a level 2. Then I went back to Old Folsom for about another 5 or 6 years. Then from there, Chuckawalla. Then I paroled from Ironwood.
So, if I'm reading this right, you was messing up in junior high school, and messing up in camp,
Not camp.
What was that? When you tried to escape?
Yeah, I tried to escape from juvenile hall.
Okay.
I went to YA.
Okay.
I got into a riot in YA. They kicked me out of YA and sent me to Folsom.
So you did all this time, and even on the streets in the adolescent years, you was messing up. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think you would come home?
Initially, no. I didn't even care when I had got that 27 to life sentence. I was just turned like 19. I remember October 31st, 1985. That's when I had got sentenced to the 20. Well, I knew that I was going to get that life sentence. So I just had to go to youth authority for the observation. But when I went, when the reality set in, I was like, man, might as well do what I'm gonna do, because I might not ever go home. So initially, in those first few years, I didn't even think about home.
Did you get visits
Oh yeah, I got visits.
from the family or
Family,
girls?
young women who I had been involved with at some time, and then I had actually got married in 90 to 92.
Okay. Uh-huh. They still had conjugal visits back then.
Back then, yeah, I don't think they stopped the conjugals until about
Late 90s.
96.
Mid 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, man, you endured a lot in your lifetime, man.
Yeah, it was, it was like, hey, a lot of people ask me, how did I do it? They couldn't have did it. I had one choice, and my choice was to do it and get it over with.
So look, I'm looking at your arms and shit. You look like you in good shape.
I used to be.
So I want to know about the weights.
Mm-hmm.
Guys was real big back in the 80s.
I think I had about some 19-inch arms at one point. I had about some 19-inch arms, and I think when I got to youth authority, I was able to really access in that initial, when I had left the county jail. I had already used to work out in juvenile hall though, and so I just kind of like parlayed that and with push-ups, and then when I went to youth authority, I could really get to the weights. And then when I went to prison, I worked on the yard, so I had access, unfettered access to the weights.
So did they have unlimited amount of weights back then?
Everybody had a section: blacks, Mexicans, whites, Indians, others. They all had a section, and they had certain amount of weights that the blacks, we would never cross or let the whites or Mexicans, Indians use our weights. No.
But if you could hit 450 pounds, was it there for you to hit?
Yeah, you can do that.
500?
You can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was maybe your best workout routine?
Well, one of the things that I did, I used to work out. By me working on the yard, my job started at 7:30 in the morning, so I can go out, clean up, do what I have to do, and immediately I started running. Maybe ran about 2 miles. Then I did went to the bar work, and it all depended on what I wanted to do. I may do about a couple of hundred dips, a couple of hundred pull-ups. Then I go to the boxing area, because I used to box up there as well. So I would work out in the boxing ring, and towards the end of the day, then that's when I would hit the weight pile. So
any calisthenics?
Burpees, pretty much burpees, jump rope, the regular sit-ups, push-ups, and stuff like that.
It's hard to diet in prison. What was your food regime like?
A lot of tuna and top ramen. I can't stand. I don't really care for top ramen today, but I love tuna. But it was definitely. And after some point, I got used to peanut butter and honey. And so peanut butter and honey was like, if all else failed, it was back to the peanut butter and honey.
On white bread or wheat?
Wheat. I gotta have wheat bread.
All right. Any positive message or anything we left out you want to speak on?
And again, man, it's not to glorify anything, because I am, like I said, I am a mentor. So my thing is to, if I can tell any one of the kids, I tell a lot of kids when I mentor, if I could go back to any age, it would be 15. That's when I stopped playing football. So I'm probably the greatest cat that never did it. I never know what I could have did if I would have stayed on the football field.
But you know what? I want to say this to the last guy that was here, Swanee from BSV. There's actually a lot of us that was very talented, more than just football.
Oh yeah.
And that adolescence, man, we made a decision that cost us a career, a professional career.
Yeah. One wrong turn, man, and it's and me, I took a long detour to get where I'm at, mentally, spiritually, while a lot of the youth, hopefully they'll take the messages, those little kibbles that's inside of every message, and they can grow and expand from that and know what not to do and what things to avoid.
For a long time, lifers wasn't getting out of California prison.
No.
Now that you're out, a lot of other people out, how many lifers have you seen on the street that you knew from prison?
Oh man, I saw a lot. I actually, they have that new youth offender thing, I guess, if you had committed a crime at a certain age. But Jerry Brown actually, he was the real deal, man. It was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Gray Davis, Pete Wilson, all of them. They was like, they had that no parole policy. But when Jerry Brown came in, Jerry Brown said, if you're doing the right things, and you said, hey man, you can give you a second chance, and he gave me a second chance.
I noticed, your governor's of California.
I had to. So, Duke Major was another one. Yeah. He was one of saying no prisoners could be released.
A Republican.
Yeah, all of them.
So I got to ask you this for my viewers. Mm-hmm. On a local scale, meaning on the state level, is voting important?
Voting is very important. I believe, it's definitely, something that's been allowed, and, a lot of people fought to be able to do this for, different ethnicities. And it gives you a chance to express yourself at the polls, what you like, what you don't like, what you would like to, anybody who has a message that you would like to see them put in place. Absolutely. It gives you a voice.
Yeah, it's just coming from me, I feel like it's a big misconception with younger people today, younger black people, saying that voting don't count. And, as a 3-striker and a brother that lost to 3 strikes and a lot of friends, even I think he was Peanut from 9-0 that has struck out too, I believe. I was going to court with a lot of people that struck out. 3 strikes was on the ballot, man. Mm-hmm. If people voted, they could have voted it down, and they had more than one chance. So, to me, I can't wrap my mind around people that say voting don't count.
Well, it gives, and once again, man, if you see something that you like, you can vote for it. If you see something that you don't like, you can always go out there and encourage people, spread the word, have these little rallies yourself. And hey, like that law, that 3 strikes, it was on the ballot, and people actually voted for it. I want to say it was on the ballot with the family visits. I could be wrong, but I believe somehow that those things were engaged with each other.
Some people say they was tricked to vote the wrong way, but the second time around, they still didn't vote for it.
Well, they had nobody to blame but themselves then.
Well, I don't even think they would blame themselves. Mm-hmm. I think they really didn't care. You don't really care until it affects you or a family member. And
that's what it is, and I've seen that a lot where, guys get put in a situation they didn't vote or, but then when it does affect them, they want everybody to go ahead and vote. They try to get the word out at the last minute. And so why wait to the last minute? What you can do when that time comes around.
Exactly. All right, I'm out. Unless you got anything you want to add.
Nah, it's all good.
Good looking, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. You want to give a shout out to Miz or anybody?
Oh yeah. Give a shout out to all my cats. They know what's happening. They know what to do. Keep cats, be safe out there. And hey, try to avoid that corona. It's real.
Right.
That coronavirus is real.
Right. What are you doing to protect yourself from the virus?
Well, I actually, man, I'm like a black Mr. Monk, man. I keep the disinfectant wipes, the Perel, and I keep all that stuff. So I constantly wash my hands. If I touch anything, I certainly don't put my hands in my face, and So I try to do what I can to be very conscious of my movements and my actions.
Oh, I appreciate it, bro.
All the time, man.